For my senior capstone project, I made a podcast. It's called the Equipment Room. This was the logo I made for it. So I spent the last 4 years, my entire time as an undergraduate, as an equipment manager, a student support staff member for Shepherd Football. So because of this, I know the entire football staff and players, but I've also gotten to learn a lot of meet or get to meet a lot of other people from just around the athletic department, athletic directors and just any. There's a lot of other people that work in for in other sports and also in the offices. So I decided to use that as an advantage, and I figured I could create a podcast that would be focused on Shepherd sports, but because of who I am, I could make it from a unique angle of someone who really kind of always knows what's going on and has a connection with people. So I was more comfortable talking to them, and I thought I knew the kind of the questions to ask really. And one of the things about Division 2 is it's a very high level of competition, but there's nowhere near as much media as higher levels like Division 1A and 1AA. So what I figured is that I could provide some good publicity for the athletic department, but I could also allow fans of Shepherd Sports to get more information on the people behind it, the athletes and the coaches, and just some kind of things that they got going on, and uh, just things that you would expect at a the media to cover at in Division 1 that people just don't get. And I wanted the audience to not only hear about the accomplishments of them individually, but also just get a little bit of a taste of the more human side, I guess. That you get some of that once again in the media sometimes, but especially at this level, that's something that you just don't necessarily get. Is there's a lot of great stories. Most people have a good story to tell, and I wanted to kind of help to just give a little bit of a hint of who people are as people. So I aim the podcast mainly at Shepherd University students, but I figured that there's a lot of people, sports fans, alumni donors, and the athletes' parents who would be interested in hearing these things, and especially alumni and donors. It's interesting how many people are involved in the success of an athletic team. So I wanted to have broad appeal, even though, of course, you are aiming it at uh, particular people, but I thought it was accessible to really anyone who would be interested in it. The analytic data, interestingly enough, told me that while I was correct, the majority of my audience were young. Said 50% were between the ages of 18 and 27, and 40% was between the ages of 28 and 34. There were a significant amount of people who were older who listened to it. Said 3% were between the ages of 35 and 44, and 7% were between the ages of 45 and 59. 90% of my listeners, according to the analytics that Spotify for podcasters provided, it told me that 90% of my listeners were male, but there was a few episodes. One was Shepherd FCA, which one of the people I interviewed to talk about Fellowship of Christian Athletes was a women's basketball player. About 50% of the listeners to that were women. So, the viewers or the listeners were all over the place. I think I got around 90 to 100 total listens on all the episodes combined, which I was perhaps I would say that was more than what I was expecting. So I was happy with that, and it was just kind of cool to see that people were asking me about it, and I heard some feedback, and so I was really happy just that people were seemed to be genuinely interested in it. So I had hosted multiple sports programs on the campus radio station. I had done that for 3 semesters, so I had some experience with making an audio production. Speaking in front of a microphone, interviewing people. We always had guests on our shows. So podcasting is kind of growing in popularity right now. There's a gazillion podcasts, and one of the nice things about podcasting is you can really just make a production that's kind of has a narrow subject. So for this, that really was a good medium for what I was trying to do here. So, there's some podcasts and online shows, Pat McAfee show or Rich Eisen show, just some sports shows that I liked, and so I kind of use them as a little bit of a model. And I researched some podcast techniques. I had a friend who made a podcast, and he had me on it last year, and so he showed me kind of the basics. And one of the most important things, and I'll get on this more later, but selecting the guest is important because, first of all, you want to try to find someone who has something really interesting to say, but you also want to find someone who's good at saying things. And, that mix is really important. And it's kind of hard to sometimes tell, somebody could you could write 10 questions and someone could give you a one sentence answer and you'll have 4 minutes of material, or you could write three questions and they'll just talk and talk and talk and say a lot of great stuff, and then you'll have 20 minutes. So that was probably the most important part, was just trying to figure out exactly what the scope was, what I was trying to get, and how to get the most out of my guests. And once again, back to the advantages of a podcast it's not that it's easy, but it doesn't take a lot of equipment to make it at a high level. The only thing I needed that I didn't have was a podcast microphone, and fortunately, the communications department has one in the library that you can rent out. So uh, that part of it was pretty easy. For software, I just use Audacity, which that's something that I've used for other audio productions here. It's really a great interface and pretty simple, I would say, and user friendly. So I use Spotify for podcasters. When I started, it was called Anchor, but they changed it right a couple weeks in. And that's it. Spotify for podcasters was uh, really great because I could just uh, edit the stuff I needed on Audacity and just how it helps you publish it. But the actual production, I could really do it anywhere as long as the acoustics are okay. I think I did most of them in my own living room at school, but I went to other people's dorms. I did a few in the Butcher Center, which is the where the athletic department is. So I had a lot of options as far as where to record it, which really made it easy. A lot of people in athletics are busy and people. So if you say, hey, just let me know where and when, and I'll come by and we'll get this done real quick. So that was I will say that was, making a podcast. There is something really nice about the simplicity, and that made it a much, I won't say easier, but it may be more convenient than any type of project I had ever done, because it's just such a simple setup. You don't need to come and bring a bunch of cameras and spend all this time. I really just have to plug the microphone in, get the software running, record, and as long as you're prepared, you'll probably do all right. So what I learned from this is, I already had some experience, of course, with voice production and that kind of thing, from the radio station and editing, just from the various video and audio things I've done at school. But probably the most important part was really just kind of, you know, doing your research and preparing and coming up with good questions, and really making them tailored to your guest. Different people react differently to the questions you ask them, and some people will don't need a lot of push to give you some good material. Some people do, but you need to figure out, you need to know your guests, you know just the basic information, know what stories and what things they can talk about, but try to figure out in the middle of it also what exactly that they are so interested in and what to tell you about. Because when they have something that they really want to tell you, that's when you get the best genuine and just high quality interesting material. So just making sure you have questions, and adapting as you go along and making the person feel comfortable. That was actually, interestingly enough, as I said before, I've had guests on the radio show, and we had done these types of things, but to really just do it by myself, and to sit down with these people and just try to have like a good conversation with them and record it, and have it be something that I think other people would want to listen to. It was very different than what I was used to, And so I would say that I'm a much better interviewer, but I also really focused a lot because of how simple the setup for a podcast is. You want to make sure your audio quality is really good because there's not really anything to distract people from that. So it made me much better at audio production and how to make just how to make audio sound good and how to just kind of reduce the little flares or little mistakes you make. And so I would say that it was a really fun process, but there really was a lot I learned about it too. And I'm certainly happy with the result.